Honestly, I wasn't planning on initially making this until I've realized how true this might be. I mean, obviously the rumor mills were going strong yesterday, but I did not realize how much legs there is to this deal. And obviously the one I'm talking about is Julian Alvarez to Arsenal. I think, of course, we saw him play against us multiple times last season, and I would be very surprised if an Arsenal fan says they don't like the player. The player is an amazing player, but I think for me the most interesting part about this is what Hand of Arsenal said, which let me just redirect myself to reading that real quick. Um, Basically, to summarize with his whole spiel is that Atletico do not want to sell to Barca. Julian Alvarez wants to go to Barca. PSG and Arsenal are in the background, but as of right now, it's kind of a stalemate because Julian Alvarez wants to go to Barca and has paused all other offers for that. Um, but there's potential that he would move to other teams. If that Barca deal does not go through. He's gone public with his request to leave, and so that kind of means that he's kind of forcing Atletico's hand to sell him. But like I said, Atletico refused to sell to Barcelona. So what it's looking like is that us and PSG have a background chance. But what makes this deal even more interesting and probably um more interesting for me personally is that Atletico Madrid are also he says 100% confirmed to have interest in Viktor Gyokeres, which makes us even more intense because it kind of strengthens the links a little bit that we heard earlier, which was Julian Alvarez um, in a swap deal with Gyökeres plus money. I was laughing at that. I was laughing at that offer. I was saying, no way, this is true. But now that Hand of Arsenal is talking about it, it's definitely has legs in it. I mean, I think the thing is here is clearly that we're trying to bring him in at all costs. He wants Barca, but Atleti are adamant that they won't sell to Barca. And I honestly, usually I would be surprised and I would say no, he's gonna end up going to Barca. But the way it's swinging right now and the way publicly Atletico have kind of come out and said no, we're not selling to Barca, it kind of actually does make me feel that no, these guys are actually refusing to sell to Barca and want other teams to come into the race. Um, of course, technically we haven't formalized our interest, but I think this deal is interesting for so many reasons. Firstly, it's because I would be very surprised if you don't know my feelings on Viktor Gyokeres, but I do not think he's at our level. He's at the level I think we saw it in the Champions League final. I think we saw him multiple times in the Prem, more than multiple times, in fact. That he is not at the level to start for us game in, game out, and really be an impact. Julian Alvarez is, whether that's on the 9 or in the 10 playing off Kai Havertz. Julian Alvarez is the type of player that blows up our team in terms of creativity, in terms of ball striking, in terms of just attacking threat. He has that X factor that we're looking for. He's one of those players that can add additional X factor, including Morgan Rogers, including Bradley Barcola. All of these guys can do it, but the thing is that Julian Alvarez has already done it at the top level. Bradley Barcola as well, but Bradley Barcola has more question marks and he has more probably flaws in his game as right now. This guy is not a good finisher. He has certain finishes like Kai Havertz. He has certain finishes down, but this guy is still not the best finisher. And Morgan Rogers hasn't really done it at that elite level yet in the Champions League or in international tournaments. So I think Julian Alvarez is a good blend of both. First of all, I think he's entering his prime years. But on top of that, he has shown at the top level against the top teams in the big games that this guy's a threat, right? We've seen it against us, We've seen it against Barca. We've seen it against Real Madrid. We've seen it against multiple teams in the UCL and in the La Liga. So we know this guy's a threat. Um, and beyond that, I think it works really, really well with our squad composition. I mean, you're getting rid of a nine that a lot of us don't think is good enough, and you're swapping him for a nine that is a 9/10 that can, play with the primary nine, but also can play as the nine. Um, I think that's all very interesting for sure, and I think it definitely strengthens us. And the fact that we had to let go of Viktor Gyokeres in the process means that we don't have to spend 120 mil, 130 million euros on this guy. We could rather spend, maybe less, probably 50 to 70, probably, hopefully, if we get really lucky. And that makes every other deal much more manageable because imagine you get Julian Alvarez, then you might also get Bradley Barcola. I assume we probably wouldn't get Morgan Rogers if we're getting Julian Alvarez. And then you have other money to spend on other players. Like I think it just makes sense from a financial perspective if this is a swap deal. It makes sense from a target perspective, what we're looking for. I mean, you look at a lot of what Morgan Rogers brings, and Julian Alvarez also brings some of those attributes. You're talking about ball striking, X factor, carrying the ball, strong in the duel somewhat. In terms of like at least being able to ride contact, pause. Both of those have that. It's just Julian Alvarez has shown his X factor more and is probably has better ball striking, but I think Julian Alvarez, man, that's a big statement. That's for the type of profiles we need, the type of skills we need to add to the team. Julian Alvarez definitely is up there. I mean, it's still kind of said that this is very hard to predict right now, and which is why Hand of Arsenal did not kind of release it earlier. Um, Apparently, it's still very, very hard to predict, but it is what it is. So it is very confusing, and I think a lot of it also depends in terms of. I think a lot of it also depends on what is going on with Morgan Rogers' fee. I just got distracted because I just got an update that kind of talks about that. Aston Villa need to make sales before signings because they have a high wage bill, and serious UEFA SCR issues after the sale of the women's team was rejected. So that means that Morgan Rogers, obviously, if they want to sell him, he will be like, or if they because they need to make sales, Morgan Rogers is an asset that they probably will sell because it would give them the comfort in terms of money financially to be able to, not have those UEFA issues, but it'd still be expensive. And I think with Alvarez and Rogers, I think it's a fine balance between the fee and the player that we're offering. I think obviously if you're going 70 million euros, which is what 60, let's just say 60 million pounds, plus Gyökeres for Julian Alvarez versus Morgan Rogers for 100 million pounds, you're probably in terms of value, you're probably giving him more for Julian Alvarez, but Julian Alvarez is probably the more complete player, so you'd probably go with the Julian Alvarez. But if Julian Alvarez starts to like if that deal starts to go out of hand, um, then you'd probably look at that Morgan Rogers deal probably a little bit better. But I doubt that with that Morgan Rogers deal we'll go any more than 80, maybe 90 million. So I think that Morgan Rogers and Julian Alvarez deal are kind of finally in the balance. I think those are the two alternatives. But just the Bradley Barcola deal, I think that will probably happen as long as Martinelli leaves. Um, and then you see Yeremy Manga, and the team is looking very interesting in attack next season. And I'm very curious to see what happens with some of these deals that basically light up our attack in various different ways. But Julian Alvarez to Arsenal, man, it was a joke yesterday for me. I was just playing around. I was just joking about it, but it's seeming a lot more real. So there you go.